My granddaughter was in here. She was an innocent little girl. I will never have my baby again. And they need to do something about it. They need to not forget us.
You know that they're kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves. 6-year-old kids in there. They don't know how to defend themselves from a shooter.
As people question how this happened and why it happened, and if law enforcement responded appropriately, the Department of Public Safety offering a bit of clarity today.
He just started shooting.
This morning, a chilling account for the first time of what went on inside that classroom where multiple children and 2 teachers were fatally shot.
I was playing dead, so he won't shoot me.
10-year-old Samuel Salinas, one of the few survivors from his class, now recovering after an injury to his leg.
He shot my teacher and then he shot the kids. I think he was aiming at me, like the thing, and then he, I guess one of the chairs were there, so it blocked it, and pieces in my leg.
Most of his friends and classmates not making it out alive.
I kind of don't feel safe going to school, and I feel hot, and sometimes at night I have nightmares too.
Also inside that classroom, 10-year-old Tess Mata.
It happened here, and it took my baby.
Tess adored her big sister Faith, loved making TikToks, and kept people laughing.
She put a smile on everybody's face every time she was always dancing. She always had the biggest smile ever.
Evadulia Horta's son, Rogelio Torres, also one of the victims.
Losing that little piece of my heart, I lost my son.
The mother of 4 says Rogelio was loving, happy, and liked to help others.
I think about him, what happened that day, what was going on in that classroom that he was in. He was crying out for me or something. I'm not sure. I'm just like, what was his last, what he saw last.
And Eli Garcia, she was known to love Encanto and her abuelita, Nelda Lugo, who says every time she saw her granddaughter, she would run to her and give her hugs.
Siempre que llegaba, hi grandma, I love you.
And also being remembered, Nevai Bravo and Leila Salazar. And Alexander Rubio, or Lexi, was an all-A honor student, her mother calling her beautiful and smart, sharing on Facebook, "We told her we loved her and would pick her up after school. We had no idea this was goodbye." And this morning, unimaginable tragedy compounded. Just days after teacher Irma Garcia was gunned down, her husband Joe Garcia dying of a heart attack. The two were about to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. One of his final moments, laying flowers at the love of his life's memorial. They now leave behind 4 children, seen here overnight at a mass for the family, held in the pastor's embrace.
Jaden Perez is better today.
Still sad about some of my friends that died.
And the 10-year-old shooting survivor says talking helps.
It was very terrifying because I never thought that was going to happen.
Inside a 4th grade classroom, the 10-year-old said he and his classmates hid near the backpacks. This photo of the classroom was taken long before the shooting.
5 of us hiding there and then the rest under a table. But that didn't stop one of my friends getting hurt. The shooter shot through the window and hurting my friend and my teacher. Like, my teacher got hurt on right here, on what, I don't know which side, but she got hit on the side. And then my friend got shot through the nose. And they both had to get surgery.
Perez said an officer helped him and his classmates escape through a window, but not before the shooter had killed his friends.
McKenna, Tess, Annabelle, basically almost all of them.
Jaden's pain, not physical, but emotionally paralyzing.
No, because after what happened, no.
Do you ever want to go back to school?
I don't want to know because I don't want anything to do with another shooting. and me in the school.
You scared it might happen again?
Mm-hmm. And I know it might happen again, probably.
Jaden's mom, Crystal, shared these pictures taken about 90 minutes before the shooting. She's with her son at the school, celebrating Jaden's honor roll achievement. His mom said waiting, not knowing, was tough.
You never know whenever you can lose someone close to you.
They were little kids, but still old enough to dream. They played sports and musical instruments. They were planning their summers. Their whole lives lay ahead of them. Until a teenager they'd never met armed himself to the teeth, legally, and slaughtered them all.
Somebody would have hurt my baby.
Now Uvalde, Texas is a cauldron of grief after one person stole so much from families like the Rubios, the parents of 10-year-old Lexi.
She went to go to law school.
Law school?
Yep, at St. Mary's, because that's where I go. This is the sweater she was wearing. And she played softball. She played basketball. Because someone wanted to take her life.
All we can hope is that she's just not a number. Hopefully something gets resolved.
Her father, Felix, is a sheriff's deputy here and was part of the frantic response to his daughter's school yesterday when the shooter barricaded himself inside a classroom at Robb Elementary and opened fire. The shooter, a high school dropout, turned 18 just 9 days ago, and the very next day went out and, without a license, bought the first of 2 AR-15 style rifles, a transaction that in Texas is perfectly legal. Along with them, he bought multiple high-capacity magazines and 375 bullets. But there was nothing illegal about that either. Large-capacity magazines aren't regulated in Texas. At the school, armed law enforcement saw him coming and traded shots with the shooter, but failed to neutralize him before he burst into the school through a back door. He locked himself inside that classroom and gunned down those 19 children and 2 teachers. And now this small rural district has ended its school year early as it stares in the face of so much loss. ABC News has viewed text messages between the shooter and a girl he met online in which he suggested he was arguing with his grandmother over a cell phone bill, and that's when he shot her in the face and set in motion the massacre at the school not far away. At last report, the grandmother was still in critical condition.
So there were several lies told about the sequence of events leading to the massacre, that the murderer, I'm not going to call him a shooter unless I'm reading it from a report. He is a murderer, and that will be how he is remembered, not only by the public, but by his family. And no, it's not his family's fault that he became a murderer, but that's how they'll remember him, because he took the lives of innocent children who hadn't even begun to live. Most of them already had dreams of a future, but do you know how many times all of us change our minds as we're growing into adults as to what type of career we want, or, you know, what type of girl or boy we want to marry one day? There are so many things that they're missing out because, and their families are going to miss out on with them, because he took their little lives. So this report that I'm reading, the 18-year-old gunman who killed 21 people at an elementary school, we know that, was not confronted by police before he entered the school, contradicting earlier comments from authorities and raising further questions about the police response to the massacre. He walked in unobstructed initially, Texas Department of Public Safety Regional Director Victor Escalon said. So from the grandmother's house to the ditch, to the school, into the school, he was not confronted by anybody. This was the 30th school shooting in 2022. We've already had 30 school shootings, and this was the deadliest. I had not heard of any other school shootings, and now we're seeing, since this happened, they're talking about the other 29 that have happened. This is ridiculous. I have not read about this type of violence and murder, mass murder, anywhere else but the United States. What is wrong with people here who have this vile desire to kill? So the sequence of events that they're now saying is that Salvador Ramos, the murderer, shot his grandmother, and then he wrecked her truck in a ditch outside the school at 11:28 a.m. He exited the truck with a rifle and shot at two people across the street, Escalon said. He then approached the school and shot at the building multiple times and walked in through an apparently unlocked door at 11:40 a.m., according to Escalon. The door is normally locked unless you are leaving to go home on the school bus, the former principal Ross McLaughlin told CNN's newsroom on Thursday. There was no school resource officer on site or available at the time, he said. Inside, the suspect walked into a classroom and fired more than 25 times. The majority of the gunfire was in the beginning of the attack, he said, Escalon said. Officers arrived at the school at 11:44 a.m., but when they went to confront the gunman, they received fire and took cover. 3 law enforcement officers went in the same door the shooter used to enter the school, and 4 went through another school entrance. Officers called for more resources and personnel, evacuated students and teachers in other parts of the school, and at some point entered negotiations with the suspect, Escalon said. After about an hour, a U.S. Border Patrol tactical team came to the classroom, forced entry, and fatally shot the suspect, he said. Olivares said officers saved lives despite waiting before physically confronting the suspect. At that point, they had the suspect contained inside the classroom, he told CNN. If those officers weren't there, if those officers weren't there, if they did not maintain their presence, there is a good chance that gunman could have made it to other classrooms and commit more killings. So I'm not going to finish reading this, but I just can't imagine how those parents are feeling. This has rocked the world, not just this country. Let's just keep these parents and grandparents and siblings, this whole town, in our thoughts and prayers. And I know we're tired of saying thoughts and prayers, but what else can we do for them? I do believe in prayer. I believe prayer works. So let's just never forget this. And I don't know what can be done. It's already in people's hearts to murder little children. I mean, how many parents have I spoken about already this year who have murdered their children? There were several stories that I did not post because it was so horrific. I mean, people just don't hold life in regard anymore. They have nothing in their hearts that would make them respect life. And this animal this demon, this devil. I don't care what was going on in his life. I don't care if he was bullied, like some reports said. Some reports said that he was torturing little animals. I don't care what was going on in his life. I do not care. He is always and forever going to be a murderer. And I hope he's burning in hell.